Welcome back to Jersey Matters. Towns and cities in New Jersey are hurting after this extended shutdown, but help might be on the way from Trenton, thanks to legislation introduced by State Senator Christopher Bateman from New Jersey's 16th Legislative District.
Senator, you recently floated the idea, and I don't know if you have legislation yet, you can tell me, but you recently floated the idea allowing municipalities to borrow money in the form of bonds to make themselves whole coming out of the coronavirus quarantine. Can you talk about that idea?
Absolutely. It's actually Senate Bill 2475, and I'm co-sponsoring with Senator Troy Singleton. It's a bipartisan piece of legislation, which would allow towns and counties to float coronavirus bonds up for 10 years. Because as you know, the shortfall right now is significant. And, towns have expenses, counties have expenses, and the revenue is, obviously the tax revenue is way down. And this is an opportunity, and it's permissive. It's not shall, it's permissive. It's may. They don't have to do it, but it gives them an opportunity to pay, to kind of fill the budget gap and pay their expenses without going back to the taxpayer. So right now, it's the worst time to go back to taxpayers and ask for a tax increase because people have been out of work. People are worrying about putting food on their table. So this is an opportunity, I think, that will help municipalities, and it has bipartisan support from mayors around state of New Jersey.
I'm interested on how you feel about the governor's bill to float bonds for the state to borrow money, because it sounds like the same thing, except that you're doing it for cities. It's still borrowing money. It's still money that has to be paid back.
Yeah, absolutely. I have concerns about his. I think, first of all, he hasn't justified the numbers. I know it passed the assembly along party lines. It has not come to the Senate yet. I need to be convinced that that's the actual number, and he's not just using that to balance his budget this year and next year. And I'm concerned about the magnitude. This is different, and I have to take a hard look at that bill when it comes to the Senate. It has not been sent to the Senate yet.
But in theory, you have no problem with borrowing money to make the state whole. You're just concerned about the numbers that are out there.
Yes. I mean, obviously, we don't want to, Lance v. McGreevy, we don't want to necessarily borrow without, voter approval. But this is a unique situation with the pandemic. So I certainly, listen, that's why I'm co-sponsoring 2475, because I think the towns need help and the counties need help and the state's going to need help. But we just need to have more transparency on the numbers.
I also wanted to ask you about a concern that you had, that the continuing quarantine, the closing of the state, not coming at it as fast as you would like, might cause tension between police and residents. Explain that.
It has already. We've had a couple of incidents in Somerset County where, businesses are frustrated. They want to open up, and, the police are sworn to their duty to uphold the law. And it's been a situation or two where they have felt uncomfortable because, they don't really want to issue summonses and, write tickets to individuals who are just trying to make a living. And we had a couple situations where there was a confrontation. It wasn't violent, but it puts law enforcement in a very difficult position. And now with the Floyd situation, I think it's even more of a concern. I think police are, they're sworn to do their job, but, in some cases they don't want to necessarily write summonses to individuals who are just trying to make a living.
There's this growing movement across the country that there's some video going around of the mayor of Minneapolis getting hit hard by it. There's a growing movement to defund police departments. And it's gaining traction, especially in more liberal, more democratic cities. New Jersey's a democratic state, a pretty liberal state. Do you think it can gain any traction here?
I have concerns with it, and I'm a municipal prosecutor. I work very closely with the police. And let me tell you, I think 99.9% of our law enforcement officers are good, and they do the right thing. I think there's concerns if you defund the programs, if you defund the departments, because a lot of towns need their protection. And, you can't have it both ways. I mean, you need police. You need a police presence there to protect you. And if you defund them and they're not going to be there, I think it's going to open up Pandora's box. I think it's going to be much worse. I think we have to reform the system. Obviously, there's great concerns about how African American and blacks have been treated, but I think that you cannot just throw the baby out with the bathwater. I don't think you could defund these departments.
Governor Murphy has received some pushback, some criticism after participating over the weekend in a Black Lives Matter walk, especially since he was violating his own order. Was that, do you understand why he did it? Was it the right thing to do?
I don't think so. I think that, listen, he's been preaching all along, social distancing, keep 6 feet apart, wear your mask. And you know what? I was part of one yesterday and we had over 500 people, but we did it virtual. We did it, a vigil virtually. And I think that was the way to do it. I think he sends a wrong signal. And now all these poor businesses that are trying to open up say, wait a minute, the governor's out there with hundreds, if not thousands of people, he wasn't 6 feet apart from anybody. And so I think it's somewhat of he's somewhat hypocritical. I really do.
The Senate has talked about a select committee to look into the way the governor handled the quarantine, handled the COVID-19 crisis. Why is that necessary?
Well, first of all, we have to have a postmortem because, listen, hopefully this is once in our lifetime, but we're starting to question, some of his policies. Obviously, he did a great job with the hospitals, but I'm real concerned about how the nursing homes are handled. And I think that we need to take a very close look at his policies, the whole issue of executive orders, and, reevaluate it, because God forbid if this comes back or if there's another situation like this, I think, obviously he was learning as he went along. And listen, I gave him high marks. I give him high marks in a lot of areas, but the nursing homes were not handled correctly at all. So I think we really need to take a hard look at his policies and how he handled it.
This is a Republican proposal for the Select Committee. It's a Democratic government. Does it have any shot?
Listen, Senate President Sweeney has always been very fair, and I think he's done a good job. And usually, when he feels like it's a valid issue, he doesn't play politics. But listen, we are in the minority, and we're 15 out of 40. It's difficult. So I'm hoping that he allows it to move forward, because I think it's important. But if not that one, then have a bipartisan committee made up of the Senate and the Assembly.
Wonderful, Senator. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Stay well. Stay safe.
That was New Jersey State Senator Kip Bateman from the 16th Congressional District. When Jersey Matters comes right back, the Jersey Shore is open and they want everybody to know about it. So we'll let them when Jersey Matters comes right back.